You look in the mirror and know you could give so much more. You don't say it out loud, but you feel it inside. There's a part of you that screams every time you put off what matters, every time you make excuses to stay comfortable, every time you let slip the chance to become the person you know you can be. You've said, "I don't have time." You've thought, "I can't yet." You've justified yourself with tiredness, with a lack of money or support, with how unfair everything around you seems. And perhaps no one has criticized you for it, but deep down you know they're just excuses. You know it even though others applaud you while you remain trapped in the role of victim. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man of his time, knew it too. At the heart of the Roman Empire, amidst battles, betrayals, and disease, there was a leader who ruled over millions and also over himself. He had no room for complaints because he was busy fulfilling what he had to do. His life wasn't easy, it wasn't kind, it wasn't comfortable, but he was an example. And that's why almost 2,000 years later, he still speaks to those who want to listen. This video isn't for everyone. It's not for those who look for someone to blame. It's not for those who want to feel good without lifting a finger. This video is for you. For you, if you're tired of your own excuses. For you, if you're ready to look at yourself with complete honesty. For you, if you want to take control of your life without embellishment, without false magic, without the lies you tell yourself. Because Marcus Aurelius isn't here to offer you comfort. He's here to confront you with the truth. And if you have the courage to stay, you'll discover why these 3 lessons you're about to hear can break, once and for all, that inner voice that's holding you back. The first time someone reads his meditations, they often don't grasp how profound they are. Marco didn't write to impress, nor to gain followers. He wrote for himself, to remind himself who he was meant to be, to avoid falling into ego, fear, or the comfort that power brings. And in that inner battle lies the key. Because what he wrote during military campaigns, amidst sick nights and days filled with loss, weren't empty ideas. They were calls to action. In the Stoic way of thinking, we don't make pain seem beautiful. We look at it, accept it, and transform it into strength. Here there are no pretty phrases to paste in a notebook, but real tools to face life as it is. Ever-changing, harsh, sometimes unfair, but also malleable if you learn to direct the mind that observes everything. Excuses are like invisible chains, and we've all worn them at some point. They're alluring, they disguise themselves as legitimate reasons, self-preservation, well-deserved breaks. But when we peel back that mask, what emerges is fear. Fear of failure, of change, of accepting our responsibility. And that's where Marcus Aurelius comes in, because if anyone knew how to talk about responsibility without playing the victim, it was him. His way of thinking wasn't born in a quiet salon, but in real life. He didn't speak of duty from afar, but amidst chaos, danger, and hard work. He said, "Don't waste any more time arguing about how you should be a good person. Just be one." This phrase isn't just famous, it's like a direct hit. And when you truly understand it, you feel how powerful it is, because it demands you move even if you don't feel like it, even if you don't feel ready, even if no one is watching. It means that your moral worth doesn't depend on how you feel today, or how difficult your life is, but on your decision to do what is right. And that's why today we're going to open up these 3 teachings of his, not to applaud them, not to study them as if they were mere ornaments, but to put them into action. Because if you take these 3 truths and use them every day, you'll look your excuses in the eye and you won't be able to sustain them. Where there is clarity, excuses don't hold up. When you know what is expected of you as a thinking being, you can no longer ignore it without failing yourself. And of course, resistance will arise. Your mind will tell you it's better to do it tomorrow, that there's a detail that needs fixing, that you're not like Marco, that your life is different. But that's precisely what makes his message still relevant after so many centuries. Because excuses change form, but the trick that creates them is always the same. A mind that hasn't yet learned to govern itself. Marco didn't have a personal trainer. He didn't have motivational videos online. He didn't have modern therapies. He only had his own conscience, honed by logic and discipline. And every morning, upon waking, he would write to remind himself what he had to do. And he did it, not because it was convenient, but because it was the right thing to do. That's the measure of a Stoic. Not how much they suffer, but how much they control the part of themselves that wants to give up. Today, as you listen to this, perhaps there's a choice you're putting off, a conversation you're avoiding, a plan you're letting fade away, and you're telling yourself it's not the day, that you're not ready, that you don't have any help. But Marcus Aurelius wouldn't agree with you. He would look at you calmly and ask what is within your control, because it is from that point that everything is rebuilt. From there, the excuse is uprooted. From a Stoic perspective, this video isn't just for passing the time, it's a mirror. One that might make you uncomfortable, yes, but also one that reflects back your worth, because there's nothing more liberating than accepting that you no longer need excuses to start taking action. You just need to remind yourself of what you already know, what you can already do. That's precisely what Marco, through his quiet example, continues to teach us. That each day is a chance to be a little better than the day before, not for the rewards, but for the honesty of the effort. So breathe, pay attention, and get ready to break the excuses that have held you back. The 3 ideas that follow aren't magical or easy, but they are real. And if you use them, if you make them a part of you, if you turn them into a firm guide, you won't have to wait for someone to push you, because the strength will come from within, just as it came from Marco, just as it can come from any of us. Lesson number 3. The obstacle pushes action forward. What comes your way becomes your path. Marcus Aurelius wrote this in the midst of chaos. Not in a quiet room, but while leading soldiers, battling disease and facing treachery. His empire was surrounded by enemies without, and his mind was fighting enemies within, and yet he was able to compose these words with a clarity that cuts like a sword, because he understood something that almost all of us avoid seeing, that difficulty isn't a wall, it's a message. Every time life throws you a roadblock, your normal reaction is to stop, get frustrated and say, "This shouldn't be happening. I can't go on with this problem." But therein lies the mistake. For Marcus Aurelius, that problem doesn't take you off course. That problem is the path. Does the fear of rejection paralyze you? Then this is your exercise. Are you anxious about not having financial security? That's your training ground. Do you find it difficult to act without guarantees? That's the point where you need to work on your character. A Stoic doesn't shy away from challenges. They see them as signs because they know that life, when understood with wisdom, doesn't bring failures, it brings lessons. But for that, you need willpower. You have to change the way you look at pain, because as long as you continue to believe that problems hold you back, you'll remain trapped in the lie that there's a perfect path without difficulties. That path doesn't exist. What exists is what you do with what you have. When Marco wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way," he wasn't trying to make poetry. He was giving himself a command. He was training his mind not to crumble when adversity struck. He knew his strength didn't come from controlling the world, but from using everything the world threw at him to become stronger. This Stoic principle has a powerful consequence. You can no longer use your problems to explain why you're not moving forward, because now every problem becomes a clear direction. If you're unemployed, that's your training ground. If you feel lonely, that's your classroom. If you're not recognized, that's where you'll learn. And if your mind tells you that everything must improve before you can move forward, remember Marcus Aurelius. He didn't wait for the war to end to live virtuously. He did it amidst chaos, wounded, exhausted, and betrayed. And here, an uncomfortable truth emerges. We often use our problems as excuses not to move forward. We say it can't be done for one reason or another, but in reality, we're running away from the effort of changing. In Stoicism, this has a name: self-deception. And the cure for that deception is action. When you make the problem your path, you break the excuse at its root. You can no longer say, "This is holding me back." Now you have to say, "This is what I must overcome to move forward." And although it may seem like a small change, inside it's enormous, because it focuses attention on you. It gives you back control. And for a Stoic, having inner control is the beginning of all freedom. Are you finding it difficult? Perfect. That shows you're on the right track. Are you scared? Even better. That's a sign that it matters. Does it hurt? Excellent. Pain, when used wisely, builds character. When the obstacle becomes your teacher, you no longer need external encouragement. What you need is clarity. A clarity that tells you, this that bothers me is precisely what I must overcome. Then it doesn't matter if everything around you is chaotic, if the conditions aren't ideal, if no one recognizes you. You do what is right, because that is what a Stoic does. Marco isn't telling you to ignore your emotions. He's telling you to use them, to transform them into strength, to be someone who grows through hardship, not by hiding from it. Because it's in discomfort that strength is forged. It's in silent struggle that virtue is born. And here comes the hardest part. It will never get completely easy. The world isn't going to change to fulfill your desires. There will always be noise, there will always be rejection, there will always be tension. And that's okay, because a Stoic doesn't seek a life without obstacles, but rather a mind that knows how to transform them. And you have that ability, you just sometimes forget it. Sometimes you convince yourself that you need perfect conditions to act. But Marco speaks to you from centuries past. Perfect conditions don't exist, only self-responsibility does. Every time you say, I can't because of this, return to this idea. Write it down, read it, repeat it until it becomes ingrained in you like an invisible mark. What crosses your path becomes your path. And then, whatever happens, you'll know where to go, because you no longer wait for the problem to disappear. You use it, you incorporate it, you transform it. That's what we do here with the Stoic mindset. We don't seek to make life easy, we seek to become stronger. We don't wait for the world to give us permission. We take what it sends us and turn it into fire. Lesson number 2. You have power over your mind, not over what happens outside. If you understand this, you will find strength. In a world where everyone wants to control everything, this quote from Marcus Aurelius is like a direct blow to our modern pride. We want everything to go according to plan. We want people to act as we imagine. We want the future to unfold exactly as we imagine, and when it doesn't, it hurts. We get angry, and we feel weaker. But Stoicism doesn't accept this fragility as normal. It confronts it and breaks it. And Marco, with this idea, gives us the key. True strength lies not in changing external circumstances, but in managing what lives within you. Think about this. How many times a day do you waste your energy feeling things about situations you can't control? The traffic, the heat, the rain, other people's decisions, the country's currency, what you see on the internet, what someone says. Most of the tiredness you feel doesn't come from your body, but from your mind trying to control what was never in your hands. And that not only doesn't help, it also destroys you from the inside. Marcus Aurelius understood all of this through his own life. Although he was emperor and held power over millions, he knew he couldn't control what others thought, their emotions or their betrayals. He knew he couldn't prevent illness, death, or even decide the fate of his own son. And how did he face this? He didn't break, he didn't become bitter. He became wiser, stronger within. Because when you can't change the world, there's only one way out, to control how you respond to the world. That's true strength, a strength that doesn't depend on anything external, a strength that doesn't need fame or authority, a Stoic strength. Whenever you feel like a victim of what happens to you, pause and repeat, I have power over my mind, not over situations. And feel what lies behind those words. Because if you can control your mind, you no longer need to force external circumstances. You don't need everything to be perfect. You only need to train your inner self. And that is a decision, not a gift from life, not a matter of luck. It is something you can choose right now. The problem is that we've been raised to always look outward. We were taught that success depends on controlling every detail, anticipating everything, and never making mistakes. But Marcus Aurelius knew that's just an illusion, and the most damaging illusion is thinking that your peace depends on the things around you. It never did. It depends on what you do with your thoughts. And now comes what almost no one wants to accept. If you don't have peace, it's not because of what happens outside. It's because of how you interpret what happens outside. And although that idea hurts, it's also liberating, because it means you don't need the world to change. You need to change yourself. I'm not talking about repeating pretty phrases. I'm talking about using reason, training your mind like you train a muscle, examining every automatic thought, and letting go of the belief that external events should conform to your desires. Marco didn't say, "This shouldn't be happening." He said, "This is happening, what can I do about it?" And there he remained, steady, calm, in profound silence. That is the Stoic's ground. Not the one who reacts uncontrollably, but the one who observes, understands, and accepts. Freeing yourself from the need to control what was never yours. Freeing yourself from external noise, from other people's emotional games, from the ego that demands everything be as it wants. In that freedom, strength emerges. A strength that doesn't need to shout, that doesn't crush others, that doesn't boast. It's a strength that manifests itself in self-control, in patience, in calmness, in the consistency of your actions. Because when you master your mind, you master your life. You won't achieve it in 24 hours, but every time you choose not to react, you are practicing your power. Every time you choose to be calm instead of complaining, you are strengthening yourself from within. Every time you choose to focus on what depends on you and let go of the rest, you are living as Marco lived. And that gives you dignity. It gives you direction. It gives you structure. This lesson isn't gentle, it's direct because it strips you of all excuses. You can no longer blame the government, your partner, the weather, or your past. You can accept that it hurts, yes, but you can no longer justify yourself, because the power was always within you. The power to choose, the power to focus, the power to think clearly. And in the Stoic mindset, that is what we seek. Not that the world is perfect, not that luck will be on our side, but to train ourselves in the only thing that is always ours, the mind. Because if you have inner order, you can lose everything and still stand. And if you don't have that order, you can have everything and still be empty. Today, as you listen to this, perhaps something is bothering you, something you think should change so you can feel calm. But breathe slowly and remember, you have no control over what happens outside. You can only manage what happens in your mind. So ask yourself, what thought am I holding on to too tightly? What idea is needlessly hurting me? What opinion is draining my energy? Do it. Let it go. Return to your center, because that's where your true strength lies. First lesson, don't waste any more time arguing about how a good person should behave. Perhaps this is the clearest, most direct, and most impossible to ignore statement Marcus Aurelius ever wrote. It's not a nice piece of advice, not a kind suggestion, it's a firm command. A command that accepts no excuses, no doubts, no "I'll do it later." It's a statement that has transcended centuries and still resonates deeply with anyone who dares to listen to it sincerely. Because it's not asking you what you think, it's telling you what you should do. Stop talking so much and start living what you preach. In an age where everyone analyzes, opines, and is bombarded with information, this phrase is like a bucket of cold water. We spend our lives saying what's right, what's fair, what should be better. We share quotes on social media, discuss ideas, listen to programs, and read endlessly. But how much of that translates into real behavior? How much of it shows in the way you treat your loved ones, how you face a problem, or how you manage your anger? Marcus Aurelius didn't write to be liked. He wrote to remind himself of what's important, to live what you say you respect, not to imagine it, not to invent reasons to explain why you haven't done it yet. To be it, because virtue isn't a fairy tale, it's something you practice, a daily action, a constant choice. And this is where Stoicism becomes uncomfortable, because it holds up a mirror you can't decorate. If you say you value calmness, why do you let anger control you? If you say you love justice, why do you remain silent in the face of injustice? If you say you seek to learn, why don't you watch how you act? These are the questions Marco asked himself every day, because he didn't trust the comfort of the ego. He knew that pride hides behind good intentions. That's why he wrote so much, to train himself to stay awake, to never forget what he should be, not only when it was easy, but when everything was against him, not when others were watching, but when no one was there to see him. That is the Stoic measure, to live in such a way that your life is your example, that your behavior tells your story, that you don't need to explain yourself because your actions already do it for you. Today, this idea is even more important. We are surrounded by rhetoric. Everyone says they want to be authentic, kind, and right, but when it comes time to make a difficult decision, many hide. They give in to peer pressure, seek approval, and prefer not to cause discomfort. And that's not a lack of information, it's a lack of inner strength. Marcus Aurelius knew he couldn't change everyone with words, but he could govern himself. And that is the only power you truly possess. Your will, your ability to act according to your values, and your decision to be true to yourself, even when it hurts, because that's where you prove who you really are. Not in the phrases you repeat, but in the moments where being true to your principles puts you at a disadvantage. That's where those who only talk the talk are separated from those who truly live what they say. And it's not about being perfect. Marco wasn't, and neither will you be. But the goal isn't to become flawless. The goal is to avoid moral laziness, to not accept "that's just how I am" as an excuse. It's about getting up every morning and saying, "Today I'm going to act in a way that I myself can respect." Not because it's comfortable, not because there's an immediate reward, but because it's the right thing to do. Stoicism, in its purest form, seeks neither applause nor followers nor fame. It seeks virtue. It seeks inner mastery. It seeks action guided by reason. And that only comes when you stop making excuses and begin to truly demand more of yourself. This teaching also liberates you because it relieves you of the burden of trying to prove to the world who you are. Your life speaks louder than your words. If you want to live your values, you have to turn them into actions. You don't need to convince anyone or give speeches. You just have to be so clear in your actions that no one doubts what you stand for. When your way of life aligns with what you say, you don't need to raise your voice. Simply being there shows your direction. Now think, how many hours have you wasted imagining what you should do instead of doing it? How many times have you told yourself that, when things get better, when I'm more organized, and when I feel ready, then you'll start living the way you know you should? That waiting is an excuse, and Marco breaks it down with a single phrase: don't keep wasting time. That's the call to action. Time is short, you know that. Every day you spend thinking and procrastinating takes you further away from the person you could be. And this isn't theory, it's practical. Because acting like a good human being isn't a distant destination, it's a decision you make today. Choosing discipline over laziness, calm over impulsiveness, responsibility over complaining, truth over appearances. Here in the Stoic mindset, we don't want to invent lengthy ideas about how a wise person should act. We want to live like one, even if we stumble, even if we fail, but with an unwavering commitment. Because consistency isn't an ornament, it's a duty for anyone who wants to leave a mark, not with words, but with actions. And that's why this teaching of Marcus Aurelius comes first. Without action, there is nothing. You can study everything about Stoicism, but if you don't put it into practice, you're not a Stoic. You're just someone with facts in your head. And information without practice is self-deception disguised as knowledge. So today, right now, as you finish this part, don't ask yourself anymore, what would Marcus Aurelius do in my place? Ask yourself what you can do to be worthy of that teaching. Not in dreams, but in deeds. Not later, not someday. Now with what you have, with the person you are. Because this is the only moment in which you can choose to be a good person. The present. 3 lessons from Marcus Aurelius that shatter all excuses. You've reached the end of this journey, and it wasn't an easy one. It wasn't designed to entertain you, but to confront you with yourself, to pull you out of the comfort zone where your excuses reside and lead you to a firmer, more austere, more real space. Because that place where growth hurts, where you push against resistance, where you look at yourself without masks or lies, that's where true freedom begins. Marcus Aurelius is no longer with us, but what he learned lives on. And if today any of his words shook you, if any part of you stirred within, it's because you were already ready to hear them. Because your mind no longer wants excuses, numbness, or "I'll do it tomorrow." You can no longer tell yourself you don't know what to do. You can no longer act as if the problem lies outside. You can no longer hide behind good intentions when your actions have yet to materialize. Now you know, the obstacle doesn't block the path. The obstacle is the path. You can't control what happens outside, but you can guide your mind. You don't need to keep talking about how to be a person of integrity. You just need to be one. And no, it won't be easy. No one promised it would be. The Stoic path is made of renunciations, uncomfortable moments, silence, and bearing the consequences of choosing virtue over pleasure, responsibility over complaining, and consistency over expediency. But it's also a path that sets you free. Because you no longer need others' approval, it no longer matters whether life smiles upon you or not. You no longer need everyone to understand you, to recognize you, or to accompany you. You only need to be yourself, in your clearest, firmest, most unyielding version. Ask yourself right now with complete honesty, how much longer are you going to let your excuses control you? How many more opportunities are you going to let slip by because it's not the right time? How much pain will you have to endure before you say enough is enough? Stoicism is not an emotional lifeline. Stoicism is like a place where you are molded, a kind of workshop where you transform into someone capable of enduring what others cannot, into someone who remains standing even when everything around seems to tremble, into someone who, even without certainty, gets up, dusts themselves off, and does what needs to be done. And if you ask yourself, how do I begin? The answer is clear. Begin with the step right in front of you. You don't need to fix your entire life today. You don't need to become Marcus Aurelius before going to sleep. You only need to notice one real action, just one, perhaps apologizing, or letting go of something you know is hurting you, or starting that thing you always put off. Do it now, because now is the only time a Stoic lives, not in the guilt-ridden yesterday, not in the fantasies-filled tomorrow, but in the present, in direct action, in the decision made calmly, without waiting for applause. And if you fail, because you will, don't use that stumble as an excuse to give up. Use the fall to learn. Use the mistake to correct. Because a Stoic isn't someone who never falls, but someone who gets up more attentive, stronger inside, more awake. Every fall, if you face it honestly, ceases to be a fall, it becomes progress. Here, with a Stoic mindset, we don't believe in magic tricks. We believe in inner work, in making good decisions again and again every day, even when no one is watching, even when all you want to do is rest, because every right decision strengthens your spirit, and a strong spirit can weather any storm. I leave you with this final image. Imagine Marcus Aurelius standing beside you right now, not to point out your mistakes, not to give you orders from above, but as someone who has experienced more pain, more burdens, and more sacrifice than you can imagine. What do you think he would say to you? He wouldn't give you a long speech. He wouldn't tell you nice stories to cheer you up. He would just look at you straight in the eye, calmly, and say, "Do what you know you have to do." And then he would leave, because that's enough, because the rest is up to you. Now you know what to do. Don't put it off until later. Do it with strength, do it quietly, do it like someone who honors their own life with every step they take. Welcome to practice, welcome to yourself. This is a Stoic mindset.